I'm Chef Mark with Escafe Online International Culinary Academy. In today's session, we'll be sharpening our knives. Many times when you receive a knife from the factory, it has the factory edge, can be somewhat not up to par, let's say. So we want to learn how to use the stone to sharpen and also the sharpening steel to hone the knife. We're using a chef's knife today, originally known as a French knife. And then a paring knife as well, just a miniature version of the chef's knife. When you're handling knives, it's very important you realize you need to hold them properly. The most important thing you need to do is to realize safety is number one, and that holding a knife with your finger on the top is an unsafe way to hold a knife. That's the incorrect way, and it's a dangerous way because it's unstable. How do you get a cut, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, hour and a half? If you're pressing, then look at all that tension building up. Ow, that hurts just looking at it, right? So we don't point, it's implied also. You also want to grab the knife by the handle, right? Handle hold like a hammer, or the blade hold, which is nice if you have a large hand, doesn't fit around the handle and it bangs on the table. Pinch the blade like so. Wrap the 3 fingers around the handle. It's a nice blade hold. So you have the handle hold and the blade hold. Some people may put their thumb on it for maybe shaving, but in no circumstance is this appropriate. It's dangerous, and it's not the way you hold a chef's knife. You want to do it in a professional manner, so the blade hold. I'm going to take the knife on a stone. I use water because it's just easier than having oil. And it's the stone you can purchase at, sporting goods stores, some of those gourmet houseware stores. And I have some water, and I use it. I'm shaving, or I'm running the knife across. It's a 20-degree angle. See that? 20-degree angle on that side, 20-degree angle on the other side. The whole tip. I want to sharpen the tip to the heel. Well, you can do it any way. You want to do it a different way. You want to do it like that. That's fine too. 20-degree angle. You can make believe you're scraping off the top layer of that stone. Don't do this unless you're a barber, right? It doesn't work for us. It's going to wear out the knife, wear out the stone. So you can bring it this way and reverse. Bring it this way, 20-degree angle, reverse, tip to heel. You paid for the whole knife. You want the whole knife sharp, right? Sometimes the spot's a little extra dull. You can give it a work like if it was a sword. You can do circular motion too if you like. But in any case, it's no more than 20-degree angles. 16 to 20-degree angle is perfect. So that's flat, obviously. That's 45, right? So half of that, 20, and then there you are. This is the paring knife. The paring knife is a little easier. You can kind of go around with it. Then we can reverse, go to the other side. The fine carborundum. This is a Kentucky carborundum. They make the hardest whetstones in the world. Very solid, and this is the finest one. It almost feels like slate. The grit is very small. You buy carborundums or sharpening stones by the grit number. It even sounds different. So let's do the paring knife as well. And then we can move this out of the way because now we're going to use the steel to fine-tune the blade itself. You can see some of that metal comes off. That's a good thing. A good carborundum or sharpening stone removes metal from the blade. That's the idea of sharpening the knife. The carborundum is stronger than the steel. And with the water, creates a new edge for you. Ooh, that's nice and sharp. From the tip to the end. Be careful. If it's scratchy, we don't care if it's scratched up. We want it to be sharp. That's most important. So now, you've used your knife on a stone, and you want to, it's been a couple of days, and it's gotten a little dull. You notice it's not cutting through celery like it used to. So you can use your steel. Put the steel down onto the table. same angle, same 20-degree angle, right? Heel to tip on both sides. Down one side, down the other side. See that? Some people hold it this way. Some do it reverse that way. So there are 3 ways to use the steel on your knife to realign the teeth. You have to realize that a knife, as it gets duller, the blade flattens, right? And if you look at a knife under a microscope, you would see that it actually has teeth, and they're irregular. And as it dulls, the teeth get flatter, and then, of course, any knife is good enough to cut yourself. Only a sharp knife is good enough to cut food, so make sure your knife's always sharp. So that's nice and sharp. The chef's knife, the paring knife is nice and sharp. Now we can cut something up, right? Let's cut up some celery and zucchini and red pepper. We'll keep the carrot, onion for last. Now it depends where you work. Some places want you to peel the celery. So depending on your place of employ or how particular you are about your celery, because all the strings sometimes, especially the oldest celery, lots of string, a lot of cellulose in celery, right? So sometimes you may want to peel that off. See? A little softer, especially nice if you're going to make a cream of celery soup. All that string gets stuck on the blade of the blender or the food processor. Also many times gets stuck in the food mill if you go to puree the soup by hand. Now you're working your knives, keep them off the board. The blade should be facing away from you, as you can see here. You shouldn't be dropping your knife on the cutting board. You're asking to cut yourself. You cut yourself, then you can't work, and that would be a bad thing, right? So you finish the knife, always put it in a safe position off to the right. Any craftsman will tell you that when they work with tools, wherever it may be. So let's peel the other celery. So get them both peeled up. Go as far down as you want on the celery. It's the same thing when you peel asparagus, you have to be very careful. You want to peel too far down where the white is, so it takes a light touch. Now, all these products are usable trim. We're going to use these for stock. You don't discard these items. So we've done that. That's ready. Let's cut up some celery into sticks. What you want to try to do is, of course, you wash the celery first. You want to hold the knife, as I mentioned. For this close work, we want to use the blade hold. See that? As I showed you before, the blade hold. Pinching the blade, the index finger, and then you can do a nice sawing motion. The knife stays on the cutting board. As you cut, you feed the products underneath. Your left hand or your right hand, whichever hand you're using, the non-knife hand is the guiding hand. And it is always up against the blade. It works in unison. You don't hold it like this, otherwise you'll cut your manicure off. Very unpleasant experience. To make sure, or your nails, to make sure if you're going to cut something, your hand should be in a claw on top of it, middle knuckle, press forward, should be up against the knife. You're not doing this. It makes the knife dull, makes lots of noise, bothers people. And you're always working backwards. You see I'm on the fingertips? I'm not on my knuckles, I'm on the fingertips. The middle knuckle is prominent. It should be a relaxing position. You shouldn't feel awkward or your elbow in the air or your elbow stuck out in the aisle. It should be over the cutting board. And you should be able to work that very nicely as you back up. Just raise the knife up high enough to cut the celery into celery slices. Now you don't have to go fast either. Just take your time. Get that nice motion down. Use the whole knife. That's why you have a chef's knife. If you're just pressing, that's wrong too. Many times they don't cut when you're just pressing. want to use that sawing motion. Nice flow away from you, like a wheel turning backwards, a wheel going backwards. Pushing forward, pulling back on the tip of the knife. Yeah, some nice thin slices of celery for celery salad. The next item we want to cut is the red pepper. I have removed all the seeds from the red pepper, and now I'm proceeding to take the pith out. That's the white membrane inside. Actually, it's the pepper, when it's a hot pepper, it's the pepper's pith and seeds that have all the heat. In any hot pepper, this is not a hot pepper. But it's important if you're going to prepare something in the proper manner, and this is probably the only way that you'll hold your chef's knife with your fingertip on it, because you're going to guide it across, not pressing down. And depending on the quality of your work, you want to get as much as that membrane off there. So if your beautiful red pepper slice, that is not used as compost, because the beautiful red pepper is cut this way. You don't cut a pepper into rings. You want to cut them into nice dices or slices. So that pith can be composted. You can use the back of your knife. You're going to scrape the counter. Use the back of the knife for scraping. Instead of using the blade, pulling across, use the back of the knife to pull across, and then pick it up. Use the blade to pick up the item like you would a small spatula or a shovel. Keep your knife handle always dry. Because if it's wet, then it's very dangerous. You'll probably slip and cut yourself, so it's important to do that. So handle nice and dry. So again, we're going to cut some julienne. This time, be mindful that the product holding hand works in unison with the knife holding hand. The middle knuckle actually feels the knife blade. The tips are tucked under like a claw, and the tips are tucked under. And you have to be mindful of working over the cutting board, especially if you're going to enter the profession. You can't be standing out like this with your arm sawing outside into the aisle. You'll hurt yourself. Someone will bang into you. So very important to work over the cutting board. So let's try that again. So a nice sawing motion, pushing forward, pulling back, pushing forward, pulling back. And then we're not pushing the product like this. We're not lifting the pinky up like that. We're not holding it like this, we're not hoping that we'll keep it far enough away, because someday you will cut both if you do it like this. So you're hoping that you're just going to push it in there. That's no good. Always work on top of the product. You should be relaxed. Press forward. The meat of the item should be underneath the back half of the knife. And a nice sawing motion. Get yourself some nice, beautiful julienne strips of red pepper. Then from the julienne, you get the brunoise, the classic cut. And that's beautiful for garnish. And the classic cuts can be very spectacular when used in a soup or salad. See how nice that looks? Or a nice small brunoise. Very, very small and delicate. So as I'm getting to as the piece gets smaller and smaller, I'm drawing up my hand in a very small claw, and still the middle knuckle. I don't have to worry too much, because I know where my pinky and my thumb are behind my middle finger. And, I know where they are. In the end, I finish off, cut the last piece perfectly. So practice, you'll do just as well as that. The next item we want to cut is a zucchini, green squash. Trim off the ends of it. We're going to make batonnet cuts. So when you're working with something rolly like that, either a carrot or a zucchini, they're dangerous as they are. So you want to make sure you actually anchor your wrist on the cutting board and grab onto the claw and cut off a section that you can lay flat on the cutting board. So then it's not going anywhere. And then you square it off. Okay, so same with the carrot. So maybe we'll cut this into about a 2-inch shape. And again, a little rolly, so we hold on to it. Anchor your wrist on the cutting board so the carrot doesn't go anywhere. With the back half of the knife, with the tip here, press down and square off. That's so important with a hard vegetable to follow this technique. Many times I have a little nail in my, if I'm doing a lot of vegetable cutting, I keep the nail of my left hand and my thumb index finger a little longer so I can actually dig in and have a secure footing. This is trim, not lost. This one will also want to square up. And this is usable trim for a stock. So let's cut this in half one more time. Then we can cut this into planks as we see fit. Maybe a 1/4-inch plank. So always I'm holding the product, as you can see, the tips, the fingertips tucked underneath on the nail, on the fingertip, not on the knuckle. And they work as a pair. You stack a few and then you can make some match the cuts. It's a nice batonnet 2-inch by 2-inch by a 1/4-inch by a 1/4-inch. You make them in thinner yet if you like. You can have them shaved down to the very end. So nice fluid motion is very helpful. Just keep your fingertips tucked underneath and you won't cut them as often as if you would hold a carrot. There's a temptation to hold the product this way and hold it back there and cut it, but that's fine if you're doing one carrot, but if you're doing a number of dishes, you're cooking for 6, 7, 8 hours, you're going to be working fast. You're going to have time to, you hope you don't miss one day. So it's important. Cut those down. Make sure it's secure. And then cut yourself your little planks, and then those planks then can be stacked. And give yourself a nice batonnet, 2 inches to 2.5 inches by a 1/4-inch by a 1/4-inch. That's the batonnet cut. Lastly, let's do an onion. So with an onion, I'm going to cut off the blossom, the stem end first, or the blossom end, doesn't make a difference. So either end you cut off with a paring knife, and then make a cut just into the skin. Then peel that back, and peel the onion skin off. It's compostable. Peel that back. You don't want to avoid hacking off a third of the onion from the root end and the blossom end. You just want to take off what you need, maximize the yield, right? So that's peeled nicely. All this is compost or can be discarded with. Let's now cut up the onion. So it's a spheroid shape. We usually cut right through the root end down to the table. You have 2 ends, the north and south pole, right? The root end facing away from you. Little round section we can cut off there. The root ends face away from you. Right or left-handed doesn't make a difference. The root holds onion together. We want to make a small dice. So with this cut, it's very important that the tip of your knife be very sharp. You'll know very quickly when it isn't. So I'm cutting all the way down, 3/4 of the way back towards the root end. All the way down, 3/4 to the back where the root end is. Then we make a number of horizontal cuts. knife's sharp, it should go in, 3/4 of the way. You may want to cut down too. Not completely down, but maybe easier than completely horizontal. And then with a sharp knife, and then we cut straight down, and we get ourselves some nice small dice. Always cut an onion when it's very cold. To keep them in the refrigerator. You'll cry a lot if they're room temperature. So my fingertips are on onion. Holding on to that, the two ends we can use for stock. If you go back over it, we just have a few pieces to go over. You'll avoid crying too by chopping. That's a small diced onion as opposed to a chopped onion. You'll find there's less tears if you cut them this way. And that's how you cut a small diced onion. So thank you for joining us today for our knife skills. Please subscribe to other videos, and we look forward to seeing you next time at Escoffier Online. You have a great day. Bye-bye.